Welcome, Badass Manifester. I am so glad you are here. I'm your host and head coach, Ashley Gordon, master mindset and manifestation biz expert, founder of the Quantum Coaching certification, and multiple six-figure entrepreneur obsessed with empowering you to create quantum leaps in your energy, your life, and your business. This is the show to help you make magic your everyday normal, where the ripple effect is real and the guest experts are world class. My mission is to power your conscious and subconscious mind with manifestation teachings, business tools, and coaching techniques to put your potential into action. Consider this your weekly up level. Are you ready for quantum transformation? Let's do this. Hello, Badass Manifester. How are you on this fine day? I am feeling so grateful for the summer, but also like kind of sad that it's middle of August already. Like I'm just not ready. But listen, I love me some good fall vibes. Like I'm all about the fall vibes, but also like summer. I live in New Jersey, so it's like such a seasonal weather situation over here, and I just love summertime so much. I hope you're having a great summer. And I'm reflecting on the summer of like what made my summer so great and like so above average. And as you know, clicking on this title, that's what we're talking about in today's podcast, is what it means to live in a way that is not average to you. And I'm realizing like as I get older, I used to be one of those people that was like, I just can't wait to like move out of this town in New Jersey. I don't want to live in New Jersey. I want to live in Florida or California or somewhere more interesting. And what I've come to realize is like, I actually love where I live. I live by the beach. I live in an awesome little shore town. It's a really great community. My son loves all the kids on our street. Like it just is a very wholesome vibe. And I'm beginning to realize that I used to say I want to move out of New Jersey, or I hate where I live, or I want to be somewhere else, because I thought that it was just mediocre. I thought that it was just average, right? Like it's not as exciting as California, or Sedona, or Phoenix, or Austin, or New York City, or Florida, like wherever all these amazing entrepreneurs are all moving to all over the place. But what I realize is that my definition of not wanting it to be average was in the sense of like where I live, it was out of comparison to other people and where they live. And when it really comes down to it, I'm actually really happy here. You know, I'm a 2-hour plane ride from Florida, so in the winter I can just jump over there, and yeah, it's really cold here in the winter, but it's actually like kind of nice at the same time. And I'm beginning to cultivate more of this appreciation for the things that I used to push away or think weren't up to my standards, or I thought were average. And I'm starting to really redefine what that means for me in my life. And I've always told myself, I don't ever want to be average in life. I don't ever want to feel like I didn't reach my potential. I don't want to feel like I had to hold myself back or didn't do everything I wanted to do. And I think this conversation that I'm about to have on this episode with Lindsey Mango, who I'll tell you about in a second, she's amazing, is so important for all of us. Because I think so many of us have that mindset of like, I got to change my whole life because I don't want to be normal or average. But it really is the ordinary moments. It's the ordinary things that make it extraordinary. It's about knowing how to romanticize your own life and knowing how to cultivate gratitude and presence and energy around the things that light you up. And what lights you up is different than what lights me up. We all have different desires, and we all have different definitions of what is acceptable for us in our life and what we would say is anything but average. And so on this episode with the amazing Lindsey Mango, we talk about identifying what your anything but average life looks like to you, and how social media can be a distraction and deterrent from building your dream life the way that you want it, and why believing you have to, quote, get there how that feeds the same lies that are keeping you stuck. And the number one thing that keeps people at the level of average and what that means. I'm so excited for you to listen to this episode. Lindsey Mango is a life and business coach. She's so incredible. I love her. I love her energy. She's so passionate about helping women create lives and businesses better than their wildest dreams. And she is the host of an amazing podcast called Life Coach Hotline. And it's a modern take on the old call-in radio shows where she offers live coaching and her listeners who need coaching and advice. And Lindsey has supported so many people. She's married to her soulmate. She has a beautiful daughter, and she is on her way to baby number 2. She's super, super ready. Like, she's going to give birth any day. And she also runs a life coaching membership called the Anything But Average membership. And it's like the Netflix of personal growth. It's such an incredible membership. We have it all linked up for you in the show notes. I'm so excited for you to listen to this episode and to really identify your different levels and expressions of growth within yourself. I know you're going to love it. So without further ado, enjoy today's episode with Lindsey Mango. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited to finally have Lindsey Mango on the podcast. What's
Woo!
up?
Hi,
Welcome.
I'm so excited to be here. Thanks for
I'm
having
so
me.
pumped. Yeah, I've been we've been online friends for a while, but even before that, I've followed your journey and watched you evolve over the years and watch your business grow and watch you grow. And it's been so inspiring just to witness
Oh,
the evolution of Lindsey.
thank you. I feel exactly the same about you. It's always funny that
Oh,
we've never met in person.
it's weird. Like, I feel like we would be besties if we lived like
Yes,
next door to each other. Seriously, in the same
totally.
town at least.
Right? Oh my God, that'd be
Yeah.
amazing.
We're like, we're in our mom era right now. And for all of you listening, Lindsey is about to pop, like straight
I
up
am.
right now. Like, how many weeks? You have 5 weeks left?
Yeah, I'm 35 weeks. So yeah.
35 weeks. Looking gorgeous. Like, you would never
Aw.
know. If I didn't know you were pregnant right now, you would literally never know you were pregnant.
Oh, thanks.
You got that glow.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think it's so inspiring, right? Like, here you are, 35 weeks pregnant, working, like doing what you love on like podcast interviews, like you're still showing up so much online. And I know a huge part of your work is really helping people not live an average life, like live the actual life that they want to live. And I'm just so curious for you to explain to me, like, and to all of us, what does it mean to you to not live an average life? Because so many people want that for themselves.
Yes. Such a good question. Like I just got chills. So I feel like, everybody, I feel, anyone who's listening has their own version of what like their vision is, like that deep down, that gut feeling of a life that they know they're meant to live. And to me, that is like their anything but average life. We're talking about the life where there are no rules, where if like nobody in your life was influencing what you should or shouldn't be doing, like the true desires that you have for your life and what you want it to look like. And so at the same time, though, I've spent so much time thinking about this. I also believe, so I think there's a destination, there's a vision, there's something that you want to work towards. And I think at the same time, I believe anything but average is like a way of life. It's a way you are. It's who you are. Because the reality is that all of us are growing. And even when you get to that quote unquote destination in your mind, there's probably going to be new visions and new desires that you have for your life. And so I think of it more of like just knowing that you are in the pursuit of your version of greatness, of your desires on a day-to-day basis, which means that you can live and be anything but average, not only in getting and creating your destination, but throughout the entire process.
The journey.
Yes, 100%. Because it's like, it doesn't always look picture perfect, right? And I think that I love the idea that you get to bring that to any scenario, to any experience, to anything in your life at any time.
I love that so much. And specifically how it's everyone's unique. unique desire of what they truly want for themselves that makes it anything but average. It's not necessarily like Lindsey has this picture of what everyone should look like. This is what you can do to not be average, right? It's more of what you want. And I think that that gets lost on so many people. And I think social media is like a big issue around everyone looking at everyone else's, highlight reel and being like, well, I'm not there yet, or I'm not great yet, or I'm not successful yet because I'm not on that trip, or I'm not doing that thing, or you know what I mean? I feel like it's
Yes.
such an issue with people
Yes. And
kind
they're
of,
defining, oh, go ahead. Sorry,
no,
finish.
just putting themselves down.
Yeah, I think it really is that you're defining your own, like what average means to you based on someone else's version of it, which
Yeah.
your desires could be completely different. And or maybe you do see things on the internet and you're inspired by them and you want them, and it's showing you what's possible for your life. However, believing that you have to get quote unquote there before you can feel the way you want about yourself or about your life
Mhm.
just feeds the same lies that are keeping you stuck and keeping you feeling average in your life right now.
Oh, that is so good. Like it feeds the same lies that are keeping you stuck. Woo! I heard that. I hope you all heard that because that was really that was really good. It's so true.
Yeah.
Why do you think there are so many people that have this like inner desire to not want to be average? Like what do you think where do you think that innate feeling comes from?
I feel like it is something that is like woven into our DNA, into like the
Mhm.
magic of who we are and who we were born to be. Like I would say I'm more of like a spiritual person, but rather than like religious, but whatever you believe, I think I love the idea that what's the statistic? Like each of us have like a 1 in 1 point something crazy billion chance of even existing like as a
Yeah.
human. And I believe that each of us have this like destiny imprinted in the soul of who we are, and the desires that we have are like unique to us. And so I just think they're like a part of who we are. And I think I see that every day with like my daughter, that she has certain things without outside influence that she is drawn to, that she naturally is. It's just like in the fabric of who she is. And I think
Mm.
our own visions and our own desires and our own, like what we want for ourselves is in that. And so, going back to the question of like, what did you say exactly about how
What is
what
the
average, yeah,
yeah.
like what average means. I think that average is living anything outside of that for us,
Ooh.
and like being anything outside of that for us. So again, that can look so different for every single human, but deep down, like if you're all of you listening, when you're not living in alignment with that truth
Yeah,
and
it's so
with
true.
what your destiny.
It's so
And to
true.
me,
And
that's average.
I love that definition because I think so many people think it's like something else. Like they're not living up to what their mom wants them to be, or what they're, like you said, all those outside influences. And like I've listened to your podcast a lot. I love your podcast. Everyone needs to listen to it. Life Coach Hotline. We'll link
Thanks.
it up. But you coach people and I hear them and I hear what they're going through and what they're moving through. And so many of them have this like deep fear of the success of what's on the other side of them really living in alignment. Like there's like that, well, what if it does work out fear?
Yes.
And so many people have that. I used to have that. Did you ever have that?
What if it does work out, or what if it doesn't work out?
The what if it does? Like like the fear of success almost.
Yeah,
It's
I
like
mean,
they keep themselves average because they're actually afraid of being that bright, that big, that successful, that abundant.
100%. I mean, I was always afraid of like being quote unquote like that girl
Yes.
who showed up this way, who was that big, who was that bold. I think that I was afraid, and I think it's something I still like rub up against as I continue to go into new levels of um like, will I lose all the things I love in my life right now to up level and become who I'm here to be? I think that's a very prevalent fear, because at the end of the day, it comes down to just like, as humans, we don't want to be outcasts. We don't want to
Right.
be kicked out of our group. And even if we don't want to be like them, it essentially triggers that survival emotion of like, oh, I will not survive, quote unquote, out in the wild by myself. And so
So true.
like being successful can feel like it will do that to you in your life.
It can feel unsafe
Yes.
to some.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's such a good point. And it's so interesting how we're wired, you know?
It really is. And I think about that all the time, because I think sometimes I'm like, I'm like, not get mad at it, but I'm like, dude, this is so dumb. Like, why is my brain or like body think this is like a thing, or why is it worried about that?
Right.
But I always go back to like, I'm like, well, it's done a pretty good job, because as humans, we've survived for this long. And that was the point of all of this programming. So
So
it's
true.
working.
Was survival.
Yeah,
Look
exactly.
at us. Something you just said about like not wanting to be that girl, because I feel you on that 100%. And you shared something yesterday in your post that was like, I used to wish that I could be this. I don't know exactly what you said, but like this girl or this version of myself. Like I used to look at people online and wish that I could be like the girl
Yeah.
that had the family, the husband, the business, the thing. And I'm like, whoa, that is so good. It's so deep. It's so true.
Yes. But if you don't let yourself be her, then you don't get to have all those things.
What has helped you unravel that part of you? Because I know you said you still rub up against that. And I think that I agree. Like I feel the same way. Like I will always feel like that is part of my edge. What has helped you unravel that for yourself of like allowing yourself to be that girl, to be like, look at me, I've got it fucking all, and you can too.
Yes. I think it actually started like at kind of at the beginning of my journey, where this is such an interesting example, but I'll never forget. I used to be like, tried to be like the cool girl. Like I played volleyball. I like to be like in the in with the jocks. And so I feel like in a way, I wanted to be the girl that all the guys thought were like, oh, she's the cool girlfriend, like the one
Mhm.
who like is fine with you going out with your buddies and doesn't text you or blow your phone up or things like that. So I feel like I had kind of this identity that I had throughout my whole life, where I just wanted to be in the in crowd. And it particularly showed up a lot when it came to like dating, because it was like
Mm.
I felt like I got to be around the guys that would like talk about the girlfriends that acted this way, or like
Right.
had these standards for their guys and how over the top it was. And it was like I like agreed with that at the time. And
Interesting.
so and so I as I got into my dating relationships, I'll never forget, like my ex, actually before my now husband, or yeah, before my husband, I had this moment where we kind of like, talking about some other girlfriend and how she was being like one of his friends' girlfriends. And I feel like I just had this like miracle moment where it hit me, because I knew that I was getting less than I wanted in the relationship, that he was
Mhm.
showing up not in a way that I wanted, and I wasn't being treated the way that I wanted. And as
Yeah.
we're kind of like talking about this, it like hit me that this girl had standards, that this
Mhm.
girl was that girl and was unwilling to settle for a boyfriend who didn't show up at a certain level. And here
Interesting.
I am, like judging her, having these thoughts about her. And it made me realize, like, oh my God, my boyfriend is never going to show up that way, because he also has all of these same thoughts, even though deep down I really want him to show up that way.
Right.
And so,
Whoa.
like it just started to kind of unravel, where I was like, oh my gosh, like I'm on the wrong team here. Like I'm like, what's going, like I want to be treated like that. And so that I feel like was such a catalyst for so much of my growth, not only in
Wow.
relationships, but like so much of my life, where I was like, I see where not like trying to be the cool girl in this way gets me,
Hmm.
and who it attracts and what it allows in my life. And I don't want that anymore. So it was almost like it became painful enough for me
Yep.
to stay the same. that I was like, why don't we just try to be something different? Why don't we try to step into something different? And then I hired help because I knew like, even though I'm a committed person, even though I had made decisions to change, I knew that I would want to crawl back in a hole and like
Yeah.
not follow through. So I was like, how can I guarantee that I don't allow that to happen? I hire someone to help make sure
Like a
that
coach
doesn't
or
happen.
a
Yes.
therapist.
Yeah.
Or,
A life
yes.
coach. Yeah.
A life coach.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Okay. This is so good. That's amazing. I mean, God bless those first boyfriends, right? Like bless their
Right.
heart and souls. We love you. Thank you so much. You taught us everything.
Right.
He probably like wants to cut your business now. I'm just
Right.
like, I made you who you are.
Totally. That's amazing.
Oh my God. So when you hired help, that's beautiful that you were able to like flip that switch. And I mean, it is an identity shift, truly. So you were able to like work with a coach and like really get to the root. And is that kind of what made you want to be a coach?
100%. And it wasn't, the reality was it wasn't just that area. It was
Yeah.
truly like I had that moment where it was the thought I didn't have necessarily was like, I'm average, but like, it was like, I know I'm not meant to be average, but here I am settling in my relationship. I was settling in how like my body and my relationship with it, my job, like literally every aspect of my life was reflecting the
Settling.
same, yeah, lesson. And then hired a coach. And within 3 months, I felt like even though my life looked very similar, like same
Mm,
boyfriend at the time, same job, same all of these things, I had learned how to like feel empowered and change the way I saw myself and change the way that I saw my life. Like it felt like I had a completely different life in 3 months. And
chills.
it was like, yeah, like in my gut, I was like, oh my gosh, like this is what I am meant to do with my life.
Holy
And
shit.
that is what, and then I like literally started my coaching business, and then that's where it all began.
How many years ago was that?
Gosh, like 7 or 8 now. It's
Holy
crazy.
shit.
I still feel like it was
And
like 4 years
you
ago.
have now you have a completely different life.
Yes, I do.
But what I think is so cool about what you just said, and I think what so many people struggle with is like they feel average and they're not happy with their 9 to 5 job and they're not happy with their partner. Everything you just said, they're just not happy with how average they feel because I hear so many people say, I'm just not where I thought I would be at this point in my life. Like
Yeah.
so many people think and feel that way.
Mm-hmm.
And what I really just want to highlight is like you said, even though my life was exactly the same, I felt completely different. I felt like I had a different life. And y'all, that is the secret, right? Like there's a lag in the time that things manifest sometimes, right? Like it's a whole life change and transition and up level. It can take a little bit of time, but it has to start within you, right? And that's what I'm really hearing is like you shifted so much within yourself and nothing on the outside changed yet.
Correct. Yes. And I think what was so fun about that is like I was able to sell like again, I think so I hear that a lot where people don't think their life looks sexy enough to like sell coaching or they have to be going on the extravagant
Yes.
vacations or whatever like and that like gets them really stuck and I'm like I was selling coaching like hotcakes at the time, especially because I was like my life looked exactly the same as so many other people's lives,
Oh,
but I felt completely different. So like it was like it's easy if you look at me now to be like, oh, well, Lindsey feels the way she does about her life is because of all the things she has, which is true and isn't true. Like I
right.
created all that, but I create my state no matter what. But at the time, it was like, wait, you have a job like me, but you feel free and full of possibility and you're like living
Yes.
your entire way of life is different. And so I think people saw this possibility inside of me and I had this belief in coaching that was so deep it just shined
It
through.
magnetized. It
Yeah.
magnetized.
Yes, totally.
And what I like when I was transitioning into coaching, I was at a 9 to 5 job and I would do like bare minimum at my 9 to 5 job. And I
Yeah.
would just listen to like podcasts and audio tapes and like all these things. And I would be journaling about my dream life. And I'm just journaling away and like I'm creating this whole life. And that's what it takes. It takes like being so
Totally.
committed to the vision, like we like to start to go circle back and keep your eye on the prize, that your life right now just feels like magical. I was like, anything can happen today. I'm the creator. Anything is
Yeah.
possible today. I don't know, something great's going to happen today. I had like lucky girl syndrome back then when it was like not a
Yes.
thing.
Yeah,
You
totally.
know?
Yes, that's such a good way to describe it. And I think that when you learn how to have that certainty in your ability and the idea that you're the creator, you also see that you're the creator of your experience in that current reality, in the job that you don't really love, in all of that. And you also have the certainty of like knowing you're going places, like knowing that it's inevitable, knowing that the life that you're
Yeah.
writing down and thinking about and looking at is like happening. And so I think you also get to enjoy that piece of your journey in such a different way
Mhm.
than when you're in like the like angsty, like I've got to get out of here. My like I can't believe I'm still at this job. It's like I remember thinking like one day I'll look back on this when I'm like, packing my lunchbox in my work bag and I'm like taking coaching calls like in between like things and like rushing around. And I'm like, and I will see it so fondly. And
Yeah.
I do. And I did at the time. And it just changed my whole experience of that part of the journey too.
I think that's such a great takeaway is like right now listening to this, if you are not happy with the way life is in this moment, how can you change your experience of it? And that's a good journaling prompt. How can I change my experience of what I'm currently experiencing, right? What I think I'm
Yes.
experiencing? Because I mean, that's where like people talk about being delusional and, like being a little delulu is like their way to go. And I feel that is true. But I'm curious for you, how did you really connect to that certainty piece? Because that certainty piece, I feel like wavers in a lot of people and it's not always there. And I do feel like it was kind of innate in me, but I do have a lot of self-doubt at the same time. But it was always like I always had certainty and how to work through the doubt as I grew. But I feel like for some people, the
Totally.
certainty piece is missing.
Yeah, I think that I agree. I think I kind of felt the same. Like but it took a minute to get there. So I think it
Yeah.
was like once I made the decision of like, I will
Mm.
not stop, like this will be my reality. I will not spend the rest of my life like living this way, being this way. Then that certainty just followed. It took a lot of like wavering and like back and forth and whatever for me and like failing and all of that to like actually hit that moment. But once I hit that moment, I held in. Of course, there was doubt along the way, but I think the reality is it comes from a couple things. I think it's like a sense of just deep trust that you will show up for it no matter what. And that how no matter how long it takes, no matter like what you have to go through and grow through, that you
Yeah.
won't stop until you get there. I feel like that is what creates such a deep level of knowing and certainty. Um, and I think your reason probably in my mind, like for me,
Yeah.
why I like how I got to that decision is what made me so like committed to it that I just knew it was just a matter of time
It was just a
before I
matter of
got there.
time.
Yeah.
Mm. That's so good. That's so good. And I feel like along the way too, like I've had best friends where like my one best friend was like, I'm never gonna allow myself to depend on a man to like support me if I'm trying to build something. And I'm like, well, why? Like, well, why not? Because I feel
Yeah.
like when I met my husband, I was so lost. I had no clue what I wanted to do. He had a full-blown real estate career, and I'm working in a nightclub. And I'm just like, I don't know what I want to do with my life. And I didn't know for so long. And then when I figured it out, he supported me. And I feel like I manifested that support so that I could
Totally.
do the thing that I wanted to do and felt like, okay, I have cushion. You know what I mean? And I know not
Yeah,
everybody has that, but I created that for myself to have that experience of support.
totally.
And whatever your experience is, where like maybe you have no support. And I know a lot of people that feel like they can't go all in because of the financials, or they have to keep their job because they have to make money, and they can't fully make that decision because they need a backup plan. But how would like, but also they're creating that, right?
Yes. And I think that I think the idea of being all in and having that certainty and making that decision, people have kind of a misassociation, or like they think that what that looks like is for some
Quitting.
people that is quitting their job. But
Sure.
I didn't quit my job. For a lot of people, it's not. I think that, like, I always think about this with myself. I'm like, I'm a mom. I can be all in on being a mom. I am committed. I am decided. And that doesn't mean I spend every waking moment of my day doing things that are mom
Yeah,
like I'm doing
right.
this right now. And so I think people have this kind of false idea that deciding and going all in means nothing else is on the table, no jobs, no whatever. And in my mind, I'm like, you can make that decision and still create that support like you did, or like keep your job. It's not one or the other. That decision just fuels forward decisions that reflect it and will help you create what you want. But I worked my job while I built my dream. And that, I think that's also because we think what creates the result is how much we're doing, and how committed we
Oh,
are is how much we're doing.
that.
When in reality, that has nothing to do with it. What you're doing is just a reflection of that commitment. And even though I was working like 8 hours a day, my commitment looked like getting up in the morning and like journaling, and
Mhm.
then writing a piece of content before I left, and taking a consult during my lunch, and like working a
Wow.
little bit more outside of those hours. It was just what it made it was a priority. And that
Oh, that's
and
it.
that was what mattered. It didn't matter that I had to work 8 hours a day. I was going to make it happen. So, yeah, I just think there's kind of this all or nothing thinking around that. Whereas it's like, no, the decision comes first, and then all of your actions reflect that, rather than thinking you have to do a million things in order
Yeah.
to create what you want.
Oh, the priority piece.
Yeah.
Keep, and it's easy to waver on that when you are comfortable in your 9 to 5 job, maybe, and making decent money, but also have this goal, this vision, or this purpose that like wants to come out of you. It can feel like you don't have the time for it, but really it's not a priority.
Yes. And you haven't found whatever reason in your body that makes you like, we all know what it feels like to decide something. We've all done that at
Yeah.
some point in our lives. You just haven't connected to something that's so deeply like makes you decide that good enough. Even having that, I see that as so much of a struggle for people. Is
Yeah.
actually, I hated my jobs, so that kind of helped in a way. Like,
Same.
but when people do have like a pretty great job and they make pretty good money and like life looks pretty good, like that is the enemy of creating the
Mhm.
life you want, because it's so easy to talk yourself out of that decision, and you have to find something really deep that is going to make you like commit to it, regardless of things being pretty damn good right now.
Yeah. Oh, so good. So good. So I know in the last couple years, or even in the last year, you've kind of transitioned out of some old programs. Like you left behind like a program that was making a lot of money,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
And I know, like, tell me a little bit about your journey over the last couple of years, because I know you became a mom and you have this beautiful baby girl. And like, what occurred for you that made you say, I need to rearrange my entire business?
Yeah. So one of my growing opportunities throughout my whole journey is, it's kind of what we talked about with like, other people's definition of anything but average versus your own,
Yeah.
is I tend to like to fall into kind of rules. That's kind of what happened for me. Is on paper, my life looked really great, but like I looked around and I'm like, this isn't what I want. And so an edge for me is always, I kind of fall into these places where I start following like other people's rules of how to do business or how to do life. And I have to like work through that and coach myself through it. And what ended up happening was, that's kind of where my business started, like was headed for kind of a while. And even though I was like unconsciously aware of it, it didn't really like smack me in the face. And it wasn't really feeling in alignment. I was doing what I thought I had to do and how I had to do it in order to be successful and get where I wanted to go. And then being pregnant and having my daughter, it birthed an entirely new version of me into the world, where it was like anything that was out of alignment, it was like so obvious to me and so clear that I
Yeah.
like couldn't ignore it anymore, because
Mhm.
it was like I loved this little human more than anything. And I couldn't imagine spending time away from her that wasn't doing something that like was
Lit
soul
you the fuck up.
filling. Yeah. Like I'm
Yes.
like, why would I do that? And so it just like, it like, I always joke that I'm like, it almost like put my growth in a pressure cooker where I might have ignored that for like more time, where I was like, I couldn't ignore it any longer. And I just started to see all these places where I'm like, why am I doing this? Why am I
Hmm.
doing it this way? Why am I like all of that? And so I just like, again, I think it's like anything. I kind of hit my head against the wall for a minute, but then when I had her and I started to have all these realizations, I was like, I know where that gets me. And that's not where I want to go. So I just started being willing to make some uncomfortable as hell decisions to eliminate that, to step into what I knew I was meant to do and who I wanted to be. And I think having a daughter, just or having a kid in general, also it becomes, you're not just wanting to be an example in general, like you're wanting to be like, I want to put my money where my mouth is. I want to be the
Yeah.
person that I'm representing in the world for my daughter. And so it was just like, yep, none of this can stay anymore. So I just started like axing so many things. But it felt like staying the same was scarier than making those changes. And so, yeah, here we are.
I think it's so inspiring because I think a lot of people get stuck. And this kind of goes back to what you were talking about before of like so many people feeling stuck and complacent, thinking it has to be this way. And I think that it's like an energy of toleration. Like I'm just gonna
Yes.
tolerate this
Yeah.
because it's uncomfortable to change it and it's uncomfortable to not change it.
Yes.
So I'm gonna tolerate it.
Yes, totally. And yeah, and then eventually it's like
The pain.
yeah, it kind of increases and you're like, okay, yeah, I'm not tolerating that anymore.
Yeah. Something that one of my mentors, I'm in a group called CEO Mama, and Natalie Ellis is the leader of it. And she said something last year that really hit me. And it was like, not every season is a growth season. It
Mm,
doesn't have to be a growth season.
so good.
And I was like mind blown by that. Like, this is someone who has a 9-figure company telling me that like she doesn't feel like growing. Like when she became a mom, she was like, it's time to scale back. It's time to reorganize. Like it's time to switch things up that are more in alignment, like everything we're talking about. And I think that's
So good.
like, it's interesting because that mindset of like, it doesn't, not every season has to be a growth season is also kind of in conflict with like not wanting to be average, like wanting to be anything but average. So I always have to keep growing. And it's actually not true. Like
Yes.
those two things, they don't have to like fight against each other.
Yeah, because I think oftentimes we associate growth with, and like my brain has done this too, where it's like growth is always going bigger and like,
Yes.
whereas I like, I'll never forget a while, like I had a coach years ago and I was like, yeah, but I just feel like I need to like get up and do more and blah, blah. And she's like, you know what your growth is? Like sitting your ass on a meditation pillow for 30 minutes. How
Ooh.
uncomfortable, or an hour, like how uncomfortable does that make you? And so what I realized in that moment is we always think growth is bigger, faster, stronger, when actually for a lot of us that's very comfortable. Like we know how
Yeah.
to do that. That doesn't, even though it can be like sweat equity, it doesn't actually
Sure.
internally make us like stretch, whereas slowing down
Yeah.
often does. And so I think that again, associating anything but average or whatever you want to call it with constant growth is misguided, because sometimes growth is truly giving yourself what you want. Anything but
Mhm.
average is giving yourself what you want. And sometimes that looks like having seasons where you slow the hell down and you do things a completely different way, which is so uncomfortable.
It is. It is so uncomfortable. That's so true. What does freedom mean to you in all of that? Like, I feel like it's like packaged into that, but I'm just curious what your definition is of it.
I feel like freedom is feeling like I have the power to choose no matter what. Like that
Yes.
circumstances don't dictate the decisions that I make. And I think a lot of times people associate that, like, sure, there can be circumstantial things like money, time, like having freedom if you're not in a job to do that. But at the same time, I think you always do have a choice and you
Yeah.
always get to experience the freedom. And when you realize that you are choosing something or that you do have a choice in it, like that's when you feel the freest. And that's kind of how I define it. So that makes me feel empowered because at any moment, like no matter what's happening, I always have access to feeling that way.
And I think that goes back to like changing your experience of the experience that you have currently. Because if you're in a job where you don't feel free, it's like, how can you bring the energy and the mindset of freedom to the job, to this moment, to this life?
Oh, that was like, I literally used to journal on that every day because that was like one of my biggest limiters. But what I realized too is that when I didn't see it as freedom, I didn't exercise that freedom. So it's like, yeah, I'm at my job 8 hours a day, but like there are hours around that. But
Yes,
because
right.
I don't think I'm free to choose what I want, I don't use those hours to go out and do what I want. I sit at home, or I'm not seeing that showing up in my job is actually a choice. It's a choice to pay my bills. It's a choice to
Right.
support myself. It's a choice to do all these things. And so I was constantly like working on creating and embodying that feeling on a day-to-day basis. And that was like such a huge shift for me.
Such a huge shift. And I feel like it's such an easy state to access if you can really even just, I don't know, like even if you could just go outside and just recognize like you're free to move your body in any way right now. Like little moments of freedom
Yes.
compounding in your life, that will create freedom later in your life in other ways. Because the more we access these states, the more creative they are, the more we magnetize that energy to us, the more we manifest it. You know how it goes, is Badass Manifestor podcast.
Yes.
It's funny because I was riding my bike to story time to meet my son and my mom, and I was like storying myself, but I deleted it, but I was storying myself and I was like, this is anything but average right now in this moment, right? Like I, on a Wednesday, get to ride my bike at 11:30 to the library to like party with my son for 30 minutes and ride my bike home with my face in the sun. And it's just like the smallest moment that I got to acknowledge and feel in my body and appreciate of like, this is it. This to me is like success. I made it. I'm able to do this. Like this is a dream come true, you know?
I love that because I think that people really miss that part of it and they see, like you going to Greece. And while, yes, that's a huge expression of your freedom, it's like those micro moments are equally as like free, as valuable. And if you're not exercising that, or if you're not recognizing that, then it's just, it's so funny whenever I watch some of those like real estate shows on Netflix or whatever.
Oh my God. Wait, are you watching Owning Manhattan right now?
I haven't started it yet. I feel like I'm waiting for the baby. Okay, I can't wait. Yes, I like love all of those. It's just a recent thing that I'm like obsessed with, but I'm always like watching it and I'm always thinking that. And I feel like it's so easy to like look at people like us and be like, oh, that's so easy for you to say. You have all the things, like so many things that you want. But I like watch these people in these huge houses. And I always think at the end of the day, my kid's still going to be waking me up at 6 a.m. or whatever. And I'm going to be strolling out like tired in this giant house, drinking my coffee quietly, like sitting on the floor with my kid. And I always imagine it's kind of like the idea of like, wherever you go, there you are. Like, I'm like, and if you're unhappy, if you're not focused on the freedom that you have, you're just going to be someone who's in this giant house with this amazing life, not feeling free, feeling stuck. And so I just think it's a fascinating thing because if you don't learn how to create that wherever you are right now, it does not matter where you go, you will not know how to create that then.
I can't believe you just said that because I was at dinner last night with some girlfriends and I was trying to verbalize that. I said something like, and I couldn't get my full thought through, but I said something like, I think about, because we were talking about having big lives and, doing all the things, but it's like a lot of logistics to live a big life and it's very overwhelming sometimes. And I don't know what made me like, but I think about this of like, if celebrities like they spill their morning coffee, they're still wiping up their coffee, like unless they have someone like right behind them wiping it up, but like they're on the toilet and they're running out of toilet paper. Like,
Yes.
I don't, and like the mundaneness, I still can't pull the thought through, but you said it in a completely better way. Like,
But no, that's exactly
it's
it.
the mundane moments, because
Yes.
the mundane moments are always going to be, but it's up to you to like bring the freedom, bring the state, bring the energy, decide. What does it
Yes.
mean? What does it all mean?
Create the experience no matter where you are. Yes.
And you really do embody that, because everything that you share, everything that you post, it's like some of them are big moments. Some of them are little moments of like, wow, look at Lindsey appreciating this little moment and helping us appreciate the little moments, and how that is embodiment, I think, and embodying your life.
Thank you. I think that it really is important to me. I think that starting where I started always helped me do that. And of course, I'm not perfect at it. Like I have to remind myself, I have to like
Of course,
lock
we all
into
do.
that. But yeah, I just think at the end of my life, like I'm like every moment, I just think something about maybe I'm just like face the honest truth that I think like yesterday, I'm like stuttering, but yesterday I was thinking, I was like, someone thought they were going to wake up today and they didn't. Someone thought
You
they were
have
going
these deep thoughts all
I
the
do.
time. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but like,
I'm like, you're like, I didn't know that we were going over there.
no, I love it.
But like, I think I think I allow myself to think about that a lot or like I see something on the news and I think they had no idea today was their last cup of coffee. Or they had no idea that when they walked out the door, like it makes me teary eyed that was the last time they were going to like see their husband. Like, I think I just live in this state of knowingness that while I believe I'm going to live to 100, and as all humans, we'd love to have that, like, that's not always the case. And so I think that just offers me so much perspective that in every moment, and not in like a like panicky way, but just like an appreciation way, it's like, can I make this moment, this experience, this day magical? Because you never know when it's going to be the last one.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so true. I mean, I heard your podcast with Chris, and like, I know that you were talking, like, this is kind of what was the topic on that. And like, I was so touched by it. I really was. And I know you were talking in that podcast about having another baby, and you were definitely pregnant in that episode.
I was 100%. Everybody knew that.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
So wait, on that, I have a question for you. And that is, I'm curious, like, with that being said, of like sucking the juice out of every moment, right? And like really taking it in. Do you ever have this, like, sometimes I'm so there, and then sometimes I get to this place where I almost dissociate from, because I'm like, well, this is so good. It's almost too good. And then it freaks me out.
Yeah. I feel like disassociation is like one of my go-to moves for sure. Like,
okay, great. I feel so much better.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I feel like I've really had great awareness over the last like 2 years, probably, of that, where step out of my body, or like where I just don't even feel like I'm like drinking in what's in front of me, because I think that's the dichotomy of creating a life where that, like, you step into who you're meant to be, you step into this version of you, you create this life. So there kind of becomes this like norm, or like, this is just who I am.
Yeah.
That reflects it. But because of that, it can kind of create this where you're not really like drinking it in and like noticing it, because it's just a total norm for you. So 100%, I think as humans too, I don't know if I have the whole, like, the other shoe's gonna drop mentality.
I don't have that.
Like,
I don't have that.
yeah, but I think that
you know what I mean.
Yes, I think sometimes I
Wait,
can't.
tilt your mic towards you a little bit.
Sorry.
It's okay.
Is this better?
Yes.
I think sometimes I am like, maybe a little bit though, where I'm like, oh my God, this is all so good. Like, I can't imagine it getting any better. And it, like, yeah.
In 5 weeks, it's about to, baby.
Yeah. I feel like that's going to be where the 50-50 of life comes in a little bit, where it's gonna have equal parts. This is amazing and equal parts. Oh my gosh. Like
Yeah.
what's going on? But yeah, I mean, totally. And I think that is such like actually someone said this to me the other day, I forget who, but about I think so often we're in the pursuit of things. Like I think I'm very comfortable in that.
Yes.
I think where a lot of my work lies is being in the having and
Yeah.
like living in the experience that's currently in front of me and not
Yeah.
constantly stepping out to be like focused on what's coming next.
Mm,
So totally, like I 100% do that.
yeah. Okay. I feel so much better now. Thank you.
Good.
Thank you for coaching me through that.
You're welcome.
And it's interesting because on that note and it of like being in the pursuit versus enjoying it, I feel like that can come in with money where people are like, okay, I'm in the pursuit. I gotta save, I gotta like manage and save and like take care of. And also the balance of like, yeah, let's fucking go see Taylor Swift for $3,000 and whatever,
Yes.
and like buy yourself that bag and buy yourself your dream car, all of that.
Yes,
Yeah.
totally.
There's a balance there to be had.
100%. And I think that something that has really helped me is sometimes is getting on board like with the desire. Sometimes the desire is to stack that cash away and like
Right,
create a
right.
really supportive environment where I feel really like cushiony. And then sometimes the desire is to buy the $3,000
That's
tickets to
true.
Taylor Swift. And I think I've always tried to bully myself into kind of those decisions, which never ends up working. And
Mm,
so yeah, I forget where I was going with that, but I totally
yeah,
agree. It is
it makes
it's
sense.
definitely a balance.
What would you say is like your next edge of growth, like into the next level?
Yeah. I think two things. I think um I've created a life that I am so obsessed with that I think when we were talking about the fear of success earlier, actually, I was like, I don't feel like I really had that early on, only because I felt like this life is kind of shit. And I was like, if I lose it or if I lose like
Right,
everything, I'm like,
whatever.
big deal. But I have noticed the better my life has gotten, the more
Mm,
afraid I am to risk this
mm,
for not that I'm going to lose it by any means, but taking like leaning into my growth because I'm like, well, everything's really freaking good. I'm afraid to lose that now for like where I'm headed. So I've
oh,
definitely seen that pop up. But I would say the biggest growth for me is like leaning into even more of what I desire and leaning into even more of like doing things my own way.
mm,
Like doing business my own way, doing life my own way. I think that's always, I don't know if it's just like the trained athlete in me who's been like, stand on the line. This is exactly what we're supposed to be doing in the rules of the game. But
yeah,
my brain loves to just like be like, okay, but we're not allowed to do it that way, or we shouldn't do it that way, or that's the wrong way to do it, versus just really just like allowing myself to launch whatever I want to launch, create whatever I want to create to help
yeah,
people and not have it have to quote unquote make sense or have some
yes.
rhyme or reason to it.
I love that so much. And I know that you have an amazing membership that I would love for you to share about. 'Cause I love asking people about their business model. So, and like the structure, like what is your structure right now? What is your business model? Because I know you have a membership
Yeah.
and I want you to
So
tell everybody about it because it's so amazing.
yeah, so I have my membership is kind of like my flagship offer right now. It's the thing that like where most people start, where I work with the biggest amount of people. Essentially it's about helping you step into the version of yourself to create everything you want in your life. So again, for me, it was like I didn't want to settle in any aspect of my life. So I feel like I built the membership that I needed and that I wanted that wasn't just focused on like one specific thing. It's about having the health you want, having the romance you want, having the money relationship you want, figuring out your purpose and giving you all of like the inner tools that you need
Mhm.
in coaching in order to step into who you need to be to change all aspects of your life. So like it's kind of like this just like playground where we
Yeah.
support you in creating your version of an anything but average life. Um and we're
Love
always like
that.
adding new things and doing challenges. Like we've done Hot Girl Summer, things like
I
that.
know. I was gonna say I remember Hot Girl Summer and Lindsay's in these epic pictures with like her abs are just popping. And I'm like, damn, like she just had a baby not that long ago and she looks fucking amazing. And like she practices what she preaches. And you get people on board to like really commit to themselves. You really
Yes.
do.
Thank you. I really
Yeah.
appreciate that. And for me, I think that every different aspects of our life, like, for some people, certain areas are more like quote unquote problematic or growing
Sure.
opportunities. Like who you are in one thing is who you are in everything. So I always say that I'm like, even if you want to like focus on one specific thing, like that growth and development always like overflows into all aspects of your life. So yeah, I have that membership. It is so fun. I always joke, I'm like, it's like the Netflix of personal growth. And
I
then
love that. Wait, that's so on point. I love that. But wait, hold
Thank
on.
you.
Just back to what you just said about how like working on one area overflows into all areas. And I think that was like a big learning curve for me in the beginning of like, oh, I just want all this business knowledge and all this business stuff. And now I'm in a community where like it's actually about the whole life. It's about your relationships because your relationships affect your business, and it's about your health because your health affects your business and your relationships and your spirituality, and it's about your spirituality because that affect it really is like it. I just wish that I knew that like intellect like in my mind, my brain, but I didn't know it fully in my body yet. Like I
Oh,
didn't
totally.
see the value earlier on in my journey.
I 100% got sidetracked. Like, I think that
Yeah.
that's what made my coaching business initially blow up was because I just hired a life coach and we were just tackling all these areas. And because of that, I was like believing so deeply in coaching. And then I kind of started to get down. Not that, I mean, I business coach as well, but like, it's like you start to kind of believe the lie once my business is at X point, then my whole life will be what I want it to be. So then you
Yes.
only focus kind of like narrow-mindedly on like the business things because you're thinking that's going to solve like
The
that's
it's
going to create your dream.
so
And
true.
that's all you're focused on. And then what you miss is just like, that's not the truth. And you stop being in the embodiment of what you're actually offering. And there's things like hiding in all these areas that you don't see because you're just so focused on this one avenue. That totally
Yeah.
happened to me too.
Yeah. And yeah, it's so good. It's so true. And it's funny because if I look back at all of the biggest moments of growth in my business, it never had to do with a business coach. It was always like in a breathwork ceremony or like in a, in a life coaching session or in a therapy session. It really had
So
nothing to do with like
true.
actually working like in my, like that's all important too, but like it didn't, that wasn't it. That wasn't the catalyst.
Oh yeah, like my business blew up when I first started, like when I broke up with my ex-boyfriend. Because
Right.
like
Exactly.
because it was about who I stepped into being when I made that decision. And then like it was just like things, not that you have to break up with your boyfriend to do that, but like that was my growth. That was
That
the
was for
thing that I
you.
was like, yeah, I was allowing to hold me back. And it just changed every single aspect of my life, which is why I love coaching on this work and why I still make sure I hire my own life coaches because I know my brain will want to be like, we just need to focus on business revenue or business whatever right now. So
Totally.
I have them to like hold me accountable so that I stop doing that.
That's amazing. That's incredible. Like, and you do the work that you like in your membership, you're always posting about doing the work alongside of your community. Like the
Oh yeah.
you have a challenge going on right now. Can you share
Yes.
about that challenge? Because it's
The two
so
the
exciting.
200K in 90 days. Is that what
200K
you
in
call it?
90 days.
Yes. So that's actually not a part of the membership. That's kind of like a mini offer,
Oh,
but
I'm sorry.
no, that's okay. I don't care. I mean, we also coach on everything in that membership. I mean, we have people who have businesses, all the things, because again, it's all connected to the same stuff. But yeah,
Yeah.
200K in 90 days. I love doing challenges. I actually did originally one that was like 100K in 30 days. And I walk people alongside, like literally that's what I'm guess while I teach a little bit, share a little bit, I'm literally walking people inside the inner workings of my mind and how I approach things and how I think about things and all the doubt, fear, and drama that I have about setting a growth goal, why I set the goal that I set, what pops up along the whole way, all the ideas that I have. I literally just am like, here's a peek inside of my journal and inside of my brain. And I just walk them through that entire journey. So yeah, we're like 30 days away from the end of that. We are not on track to hit that goal because one of my growth opportunities is selling something that's lower end. I've always been used to selling like high end things.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but it's so fun. I always have so many people tell me that it's so transformative because what they realize through that process is that I have the same brain they have.
Yes.
And I think so often we put people that we follow and admire or want to learn from on this pedestal, thinking like they don't have fear, they don't have doubt, they don't get confused. Like so many of them are like, I love to see that sometimes you're confused about your niche. And I'm like, I totally am sometimes. But then I like show them how that doesn't stop me, or exactly the questions that I ask myself to like work through that and keep moving forward and all of that. So yeah, I love doing those challenges. It's just such a fun way of, I don't know, like challenging myself. It also requires like a high level of vulnerability, I feel
I was
like.
just, that's my mindset of like, that is so incredibly vulnerable of you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, and I will say this last challenge, I just posted about it in the group the other day, and this is something that like you can still have access to, even when the challenge is over, but I was saying that I realized that this challenge really changed my relationship. I still think there was a little bit of like associating the thoughts I had about myself and like my identity with what my numbers were saying about me. And I feel like this challenge really, like, I was like posting about it and I was like, I feel so neutral about it because I feel like I believe the things I want to believe about myself, no matter what my numbers are saying. And that is something I haven't unwound that in the 8 years that I've been doing this. It's always been a really sticky point for me. And I was like, this is the first time where I'm like, yeah, like I know where I'm headed. I know how much of a badass I am. It doesn't matter if I'm having a high month, a low month, I'm on track to hit my goal or not.
It doesn't mean anything about you.
Yeah. But it always did, which is really interesting.
Wow. That's amazing. Sounds like an amazing challenge. We'll link that up for you as well in the show notes.
Thanks.
If you want to get inside Lindsey's brain a little bit more and take it deeper, there's plenty of places and spaces. You can get into the Netflix of personal development.
Yeah. Or 200K. And then that's the other thing with my permission is like, I just see myself creating courses, which is not really something that I've done in the past, but I feel really excited around the idea of doing that, but none of them are live yet.
Creating courses and just having an array, like a library for people to choose from.
Yeah, totally.
It's so awesome. I just love you. I love your energy. I love everything about you. I'm so happy that we got to connect on here.
Me too.
Will you share where people can connect with you and anything else you want to say? Oh, and what makes you a badass manifester? First answer that. What makes Lindsey Mango a badass manifester?
I think the constant like belief that I have that literally anything is possible any way that I want it. Like, I think I just hold that so deeply and that there's no limits on that. And I think that makes me a badass manifester.
Yeah, it does. Obviously. I mean, yeah.
So far, so good.
So far, so good. You're doing great. Keep going. Keep everything.
Where to find me? So I love hanging out on Instagram. My handle is @LindseyMango_. For the membership, you can go to lindseymangocoaching.com/life. I'll give you the link. I think it's lindseymangocoaching.com/200K in 90 days, but I can't be sure. But that's I have my podcast, the Life Coach Hotline. We actually just finished season 1, so we're not going to have any new ones release until January. But there's a whole library of content from the last season that you can go check out too.
Are you excited for maternity leave?
I am. I think this time in a good way. Last time I did 3 months, and this time I planned for 4 just because timing with the end of the year. But I feel more open that I'm like, if we have everything covered, but like if I want to work, I will. So that feels very kind of like exciting and freeing where I'm not like, we're off. We have to be off.
Yeah.
Where I'm like, if I feel inspired and I have something to say, but yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. And it'll be, I think, a really powerful just season because I have a toddler too. So learning, getting to spend even more time with her than I already do. So I'm excited.
Oh my God. I'm so excited for this new season for you.
Thank you. Me
with
too.
2. Yeah. Thank you so much for being here and sharing your your wisdom and your heart with us. So grateful.
Thank you for having me. It really means a lot. I just always love talking with you. So thanks.
Same. All right, everyone. Thanks for listening. Thanks for tuning in. And if you know someone who would benefit from hearing Lindsey's truth bombs and amazing story, share this episode. Like do the service of sharing this episode with someone who you know would benefit from it. Until next time.
Woo! We did some work today. Thank you so much for listening. You know I love my BAM fam. If this episode resonated with you, please share it with someone who you know would love it too, because we live for the ripple effect over here. And how can you best support the show? Make sure you're subscribed, hit the 5 stars, and leave a review on iTunes, and let me know how the podcast has impacted you. I love being part of your real-time journey, so screenshot the episode and tag me and my guests on Instagram at ManifestWithAsh. Now say it with me. I am my own power source. I am the master of my own energy, and I deserve everything that I desire. We don't just talk about it over here, we be about it. Now go get 'em.